kamusta ang ating audio? Sound check muna tayo. Sound check. Can you hear me? Magandang gabi sa inyo. Angelica, Liza, Reese, Diana, Virgilio, Vivian, Benedict, Almira, naririnig niyo ba ako? Nag-share na ba kayo? Mag-share muna siguro tayo. Hindi ho ako si Attorney Trixie. Pasensya na po kayo. Hindi ho ako si Attorney Trixie. Si Attorney Trixie ay nag-aaral yata ngayon doon sa kanyang higaan. Anong topic natin? Ang topic natin, ang nakasulat ay yung maya-mayang konti. Pero para maparami-rami tayo ng konti, no? Pero bago ang lahat, share muna tayo, no? Mag-share muna tayo ng ating stream para marami tayong makasama dito at matuto rin. Hello, Mila, Ronald, magandang gabi po. Maria Teresa Malazarte Smith. Okay. Si Purple Rain, si Romel Gallego, si Pinay Paparazzi, Suki, si Rodora Cubao Atong. Ilagay nga natin yung mga sinasabi niya dyan. Ayan, si Rose. Ito naman ay si Maribel. Ito naman ay si Alan. Magandang gabi, Alan. Ito naman ay si Evelyn. Paano ba yung sabihin? Evelyn o Evelyn? Sagot. Si Vivian Hickley. Si Rommel. What's up? Purple Rain. Ayan. Watching from China. Ayan. Si Maria Teresa Smith. Mrs. Smith. Siya yan. Salamat, Ronald. Salamat. Greetings daw, sabi ni Mila from Canada. Maraming Canadian dyan. Pinay. Relax lang, Pinay Paparazzi. Kasi wala naman talagang ebidensya na makapal tong buho ko dati dahil ngayon ang ebidensya nito ay wala na, nakaubos na. Okay. Sabi ni Yak Hakay ay magandang gabi from Davao City. Sus, paisana malinig, taga Davao po ko ate. Okay, sabi ni Joe Ramos, Guten Abend. German, malamang itong sinasabi niya. German. Kasi kung Bisaya yan, medyo bastos ang dating niya. Si Josephine Riley. Kamusta? From Rhode Island, that is the East Coast. Si Evelyn po, o yun nga, sinulat mo lang uli eh. Paano sabihin nyo? Evelyn o Evelyn? Alright. Sabi si Marita Hayona. Watch here in Batangas. Si Marlina Araza from Dubai. Assalamualaikum. Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yung sinasabi ng ating mga kapatid na Muslim. Si Rodolph. Love ka namin. Ay, love din kita. Here. Si Rosa Mia Montomo. Good evening, Rosa. Okay. Where's that? Ayun. Si Cecil ba yan? Kasi mga lalaki, Cecil. Pagka mga babae, Cecil. But I don't know how you say your name, my friend. Tell me. Si Johnny. Lag daw, sabi ni Johnny. It's likely. Good evening, watching from Cagayan de Oro City. Pachada kayo dyan sa inyong lugar, brother. Okay, what time is it? 10:36. We have 4 minutes to go. Hi, attorney. Hi, tapiceria. Singapore. Good evening, Jane. Good evening. Si Virgilio Javier Andaya from Canada. Oh, Canada. From Canada. Si Aida from Dubai din. Hello, hello. Middle East. Si Johnny James Borges Vocation, whatever. I think that is in the Scandinavia. Sweden, right? Tama. Maayong gabi, Attorney Osmo, Igor, what you say, much respect. Si Nanette Flores. Hello, Nanette. Si Sophia, watching from London. Hello, good evening, Sophia. Si Rodolphe, pati si Madam Head Secretary. Oo, nanonood yun ngayon siya. Si Fernando, good evening din po. Si Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. Okay, follower natin si Mickey Mouse. Si Kai is from Singapore. She's watching from Singapore. Si Tatay Strauss Fernandez. Ngayong gabi, bay. Asa man kalapit? New Jersey, New Jersey. Taga dyan si John Bon Jovi. Sa, ewan ko kung ano yung kanyang sound dyan. Japan. Japan. Si Carla. Carla is from home. She's probably here in this country. Seoul, Korea. Okay, si Ryan nandun sa Korea. Sultan Kudarat. Hindi pala Korea. Sultan Kudarat pala. Silingan mo ni Manny Pacquiao ba yun? No? Mayang gabi, Roselita. Mga kanang Roselita, kang Joel. Ay, kadaghan man di ayo ani. Isa-isa ko natin magkaubutan eh. Edmonton, Alberta, that's also in Canada. Good evening, Edna. Eleanor, si Eleanor from Basilan. Aha, okay, may local tayo sa western part of the southwestern part of the Philippines. Leyte, La Paz na. Ang sarap ng batchoy dyan, brother. Mamasyal ako dyan na tayo, mga batchoy dyan. Toronto, yun. British Columbia ba yan? O Canada. Stay home, sabi ni Bright. Is that a real human being? It's an ad. Mayang gabi. Alright. It's 2 minutes to go. 2 minutes to go. Kape tayo, Tony. Kagigising lang. Time check. It's Stockholm, Sweden. Huwag mo kayo dyan ba? Punta kami dyan na 2016 na 2015, I think. Before the election. Si Draw nanonood habang nagtatrabaho. Sabi niya, si Owen Friday. Mayang gabi, sad. Taga Maa. Oh, siguro nandun siya sa Maa. Okay. We have 1 minute more to go. Mayong gabi, si Edith Dumagan Obad is from watching from Singapore. Nakatana siya sa balita. Tagibaw sa balita ni. Nakakabaw. Hello, Nadlin. My name is not Attorney Trixie, but good evening pa rin sa'yo. Oslo, Norway, maraming maraming mga taga-Scandinavia ngayon. Anong oras pa dyan? Umaga ba ngayon dyan? Switzerland, meron din tayong Europe. Central Continental Europe. Sabi ni Beck Wernley, Switzerland. Meron tayo sila. So kaya na itong laag kay taga-Davao mo ko, malaga des kaya. Bulacan, yeah, from our very own Luzon. Hello. Si Kat, good evening, Kat. Si Edmond. Masyado talaga. Masyado. Ito yan sinasabi mo. Kasi, wala nang mga palit kaya tayo ni Trixie. Wala yung Luminous eh. Anyway, Hapon pa sa Europe karon, okay, hapon sa Europe. All right, it's 10:41, 1 minute past our set beginning of life. All right. Okay, ang topic natin ngayon, I would like to begin a kind of discussion na tuloy-tuloy about this debate on the media, okay, the mainstream media at saka itong new media. The new media would include the internet. So yung bloggers, and not only that, but other ways of expressing through the medium of communication na depende sa mapipili natin. Pwede sumali. Sino ba to? Si JP. Oh, JP. Alright, I'll try to figure out how to do this. Mag-ano ka kaya, brother? Alright, let's find a way to do this thing. Share screen. Okay, so mag-zoom ka. Gumawa ka ng Zoom meeting, JP. And then give me the meeting, whatever, and I will join you. And then I will share your window. No? Hello, Annie. Good evening. Si Junkie Flores. Good evening sa'yo. Sige, JP, do that. Yeah. While I introduce this thing. We want to talk about that because that is the next big topic in discussions aside from politics kasi we are no longer interested in fighting with the yellows and the pinks and all that. Kasi tapos na election, we don't want to continue with the fighting because then it would be infighting, di ba? Infighting ng mangyayari at ayaw natin yan dahil fighting among the citizens into certain groups would only be allowed in elections. And then after that, we should stop doing that. So, hihinto na tayo sa ganyan. So, ang gusto natin gawin, find other controversies na mga debate sa public debate, sa discourse, na pwedeng salihan natin. Okay? At ang malaking issue na susunod niyan ay ito na nga. Kasi ang balak po ng ating bagong secretary ng Office of the Press Secretary ay, hello, Revy from Aklan. Bagong parang issue na gustong i-explore ng ating OPS, ng Office of the Press Secretary ay yung pag-accredit ng mga bloggers. Ano ang ibig sabihin yan? And ang ibig sabihin ng pag-accredit ng vloggers at ano ngayon ang epekto niyan? Ano ngayon ang impact niyan sa ating society? Okay? So, well, not immediately society, but ano ang impact niyan sa business ng mass media like newspaper, like TV, like radio na negosyo? At ano ang impact niyan ng mga bloggers at vloggers na hindi sila primarily negosyante. Maybe they are negosyante in their own capacity in private, but wala yan kinalaman sa kanilang pagiging vlogger. Especially when they want to participate in the information dissemination of official bodies of this government of this country. Diba? Sa atin, magkakaroon ba ng tatanungin natin and i-discuss natin. And I do not have preconceived ideas about this. Hindi ko rin alam anong mga definition itong mga bagay nito at ano to sila at paano to iintindihan. That is why I want to open this conversation. Baka merong mga gustong mag-participate as we go on, maybe tomorrow, and we will do this as long as we can. So every night we will do this. Kung sino sa inyo ang gustong sumali sa discussion na to, then mag-zoom tayo and then we will include you in this stream, diba? So that we involve more people, and if there are enough of us, more than more than 20 of us, then we will do it elsewhere, like in a bigger meeting style, diba? Parang classroom. Pero walang teacher, tayong lahat ang mga nagsasabi. So meron din issue na how to vet bloggers, okay? So, And then the sub issue there is, why do we need to vet vloggers? I mean, to be sure that they are vloggers and not sabongeros. Kanya, so we are talking about vetting, but there is no talk, there is no reason provided for by to justify vetting. Why we have to vet? Okay, it doesn't matter kung pro-vetting ka or anti-vetting ka. Ang tanong ko lang, why is there a need to vet vloggers? What is that for? Okay? Para malaman natin ang parameters ng vetting kasi it might go into public, I mean, privacy of data. Di ba? So, there are things that we need to define and delimit when it comes to the considerations like the rules or the criteria in vetting, diba? So first, if there's going to be vetting, we have to define what it is and what it is for, diba? What it is and what it is for. And even sa ganyong kaliit na punto na pag-define lang ito, ay magulo yan. Ang dami-daming opinions dyan. And all of them will be useful to us. All of them will be useful to us kasi makikita natin yung mga bagay-bagay na hindi natin makikita kung mag-isa lang tayo. Diba? Mag-isa lang tayo. Nag-isip ko dito. Okay, so there's vetting. Susunod, kung may vloggers, at saka mga journalists doon sa, because, okay, let's delimit this discussion. This involves the accreditation, okay, of bloggers and vloggers and other internet users, I suppose, na gustong ma-involve sa information gathering and dissemination in relation to the office of the president, which is the Malacanang. And therefore, we're talking about the impact of this issue on the Malacanang press corps, because I think that is the default institution that is na tatamaan ito kung gagawin nga ito ng OPS, di ba? So, for now, ang discussion natin will be limited to those people, those vloggers, and journalists that will be involved in the Malacanang sport. Alright? Yun ang pag-uusapan. So, why is that important? Well, it is important because there seems to be a belief in most people, no? Not only journalists and bloggers, but most people that have pitched in their ideas and opinions on this matter, na iniisip nila na, well, the Malacanang press corps has always been the turf of the hardline journalist, yung mga talagang totoong journalist. I mean, I don't know what totoong journalist means really, but yung mga ever since nagtrabaho sila ay pagsusulat na ng pagkukuha ng mga impormasyon para gawing news, para gawing balita. And by balita, we mean the news that we get from groups or organizations that would use the means of media. Okay, media, there is broadcast, there is press, there is TV broadcast, there's radio, AM, FM, and there's also yung amateur radio is also considered media, and then there's also yung ginagamit sa World War II na Morse code. That is also a form of media. So long as it is part of a means of communicating information, that is media. But ang pinaka-common na pinag-uusapan natin dito when we say media, mass media, is that means of communication that would involve an information being told to a lot of very big audience, like an entire country or a citizenry or a members of an entire region or towns, mga ganyan. So, yun ang pag-uusapan natin when it involves the Malacanang press corps, because there is the gathering of information there from the institution called Malacanang, where the office of the president is found. At ang mga impormasyon doon, okay, traditionally is being crafted into such packages that would be delivered to the masses, okay, as a form of information. Okay. So yan yung ating mga working definition, no? When we talk about this thing about bloggers and the Manila and kanyang press corps. Alright. So ngayon, ang maraming mga tao, not only as members of Malacanang Press Corps, are speaking on this issue, and that's good. We are not stopping that. No one can stop that. That is the right of everyone. In fact, even more importantly than that is pwede bang mangyalaman kahit sino na lang, hindi lang yung mga vloggers, but kahit sino, ang pumunta doon at manood ng press briefer nandoon sa Malacanang. Sabihin ko, oo. Pero for considerations of security, of logistics, and also safety of the people, at saka sa dami ng tao na pupunta dyan, kung tayong lahat ang pwedeng ang papayagan na pumunta dyan, ay magkakagulo. Nandiyan yung presidente natin, and his security and his job would require na free siya makagalaw-galaw dyan at hindi yung haharang-harangin dyan ng mga vloggers na pakalat-kalat dyan, ng mga journalists na pakalat-kalat dyan. And that's the reason why they are put in one hall, di ba, na tinatawag na Malacanang Press Corps or something, like it's a hall. But Malacanang Press Corps itself is not a physical building. It's an idea. It's an organization of people involved in mostly journalism, but I say mostly because it's not only journalism in sense na kung stricto tayo mag-define ng journalism as writing news and gathering information, writing it into turning it into news, and then broadcasting it to a lot of people like the masses. Hindi yan magka-qualify ang Malacanang Press Corps because there are a lot of people there who do not do that. Some of those people write editorials. Some of those are commentarists, no? Mga komentary, mga pundits, mga sumusulat ng columns sa newspapers pero hindi siya news. And should it be allowed? Oh yes, in my opinion, everyone should be allowed to go there even if it's just to listen to the president. All right, but for certain overriding reasons of security, of sufficiency of space, and time, and ganito ganyan, hindi na yan ginagawa. Ang ginagawa na lang, sino yung mga representative ng mga broadcast companies o mga press organizations, kuha na lang doon kasi anyway, pagka nakuha na nila yung information and they send it out, ipapadala rin naman nila yan sa masa, okay, to everyone, to every listener and watcher of their channel or frequency or paper or broadsheet, di ba? Or tabloid. So, para hindi na tayong lahat ng pumunta doon, mga representatives na lang ng mga organizations. And most of these organizations are private organizations and some of them are private business organizations. So, they do this activity as a kind of business. Kumikita sila because sa kanilang news, kanilang medium of mass communication, for example, in broadsheets, in press, ay may newspaper, may mga balita doon, and there are other spaces there which can allow the advertisement of products, services, of announcement of certain information, certain things that would involve interested parties in the masses, also in the listeners or the watchers, the readers. So, meron pagkakataon na kumita sila dyan. Kikita sila dahil may mag-advertise kasi maganda nga rin namang paraan para maipakalat yung impormasyon tungkol sa isang business product na malaman nila. Okay? Meron naman yata tayong sound because the others are, do we still have audio? Meron bang nakakarinig sa akin o kayo ng lahat ang okay, meron daw sir, meron. So I think there's something wrong between the internet and carrying of sound to your place, no? check nyo lang. Kasi kung nakakarinig yung iba, then okay itong source dito sa atin. So there's probably a problem with your end. Alright. Um, let's continue. So, merong businesses dyan. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's all right. Our Constitution allows business. Allows uh, the participation of everyone in the gathering of information, in the observation of certain events, and everything about society, and speaking out on it. Okay? And writing about it. Kasi yan yung basis ng pagsusulat ng kalayaan ng ating mga tao sa bawat bansa na sumulat ng novels, na sumulat ng short stories, ng poetry. That is the basis of all these things. At kaya nga sa Constitution natin walang sinasabi diyan na ang merong right lang to the freedom of the press ay yung mga journalists. And in fact, if there's any law or any regulation by government, okay, in any form in relation to the practice of participating in the gathering of information and in speaking out or expressing opinions on it, merong konting regulation that's already a violation of the constitutional protection of freedom of the press, freedom of speech and expression. So it looks like a circular thing, di ba, a phenomenon na kaya walang journalism na dinefine sa Constitution kasi pag dinefine niya ng Constitution, mababiolate ng sarili niya, nababiolate ng Constitution natin ang sarili niyang policy na hindi natin pwedeng pakialaman yung freedom of the press, expression, and speech. So, anong ibig sabihin yan? It looks like ang Constitution natin ay nagawa before these principles, only after these principles emerged. Ibig sabihin, itong freedom of the press, freedom of expression, and freedom of speech were already there before any constitution that includes those things were ever written. In other words, mas mahalaga, mas matanda ang prinsipyo, ang mas luma, mas naunang nag-exist ang itong freedoms na itong tatlo na to before any constitution at all in this globe, in this world. So ibig sabihin yan, importante na sa atin kahit na wala tayong constitution na dapat ay pwede tayong magsalita. Importante sa atin lahat, before we had a country, the Philippines, na meron tayong karapatang maghayag ng ating opinion. Okay, such that proof of this is yung Katipunan. Nung nahihirapan na yung mga tao noon na magsalita, mag-speak out about their saloobin and all that stuff, yung kanilang saya at hirap sa buhay nila noon under the Spaniards, nag-revolusyon. Bakit? Kasi nga, naiipit na yung kanilang freedom of opinion, freedom of discourse, pag-uusap-usap at makinig ka, merong nangingialam doon. Some would say it was the church, the friars, pero not necessarily. Pwedeng it was a kind of policy of the government at that time na kontrolin muna natin itong mga taong ito dahil para maayos natin itong pagpapatakbo ng territory na to dahil konti lang tayo dito. Konti lang ang mga Espanyol na nandito noon. Karamihan mga Indio tayo. So in order for them to have a semblance of government and order in this entire archipelago, or in the beginning sa Luzon lang and some parts of the Visayas, sa Cebu and Bohol, they wanted to control the people. Kasi otherwise, patayin sila dahil nangingialam kayo sa amin, mga puputi nyo, tatangkad nyo, mga aliens kayo. And that's why may mga gera-gera noon laban sa kanila ang mga katutubo natin sa Pilipinas. So, kaya siguro nangyari yan na merong pangingialam sa kalayaan ng mga tao na dati nang nandyan, ang kalayaan magsalita, maghayag at mag-express ng opinion. Kaya ginawa yan kasi they had to do it, the Spaniards had to do it because it was a tool to achieve a certain purpose, which is to establish a form of order in these islands. Diba? Hindi yan siya dahil may karapatan silang magbawal sa mga tao na magsalita. Kahit sa kanila din kasi, even in Europe, ang history dyan, in French Revolution, ganun din. May mga, nobility were the ones who had power and whatever they wanted you to believe was what you are going to believe. Again, may nangingialam sa freedom of thought, but freedom of thought kasi is not in our constitution, and because ang hirap kasing i-quantify na, no? Anong iniisip ng tao. Pero yung nagsasalita, madaling i-quantify dahil pagka narinig mo yan, nagsasalita yan. Diba? So, wala yan sa principles ng constitution, but that is part of the entire idea of the freedom of human beings to express their minds, to listen to others, and to be allowed to speak, and whatever it is that they speak, they should be allowed to do it, and they should only be analyzed and criticized and judged according to what they say after they have said it. Okay? And therefore, ng mga panahon na sa Middle Ages na merong mga censorship, yung simbahan, Katoliko, and probably also other religions na nagsimula in the Middle Ages like Islam, and then later on yung mga Protestants, and even Buddhism, nandun na yan sila nung mga panahon yon, pero laganap ang ideya ng pagkukontrol ng kaisipan ng mga tao dito sa may bandang Europe. And later on, dinala nila sa Amerika. Pero before that, yung mga communities natin sa mundo ay small communities and they had the right to speak. Okay, the chieftain of the Indians were listening to their members. Everyone has the right to speak and listen to. Diba? Dito sa Pilipinas, sa mga katutubo natin, even before the Spaniards came, they already had leaders. And how would they have leaders if they did not agree with each other after listening to each other in a like a town meeting, di ba? So, nangyayari na to siya. Ginagawa na natin kasama na sa evolution ng tao o ang creation ng tao, kung gusto niyo ganyan, na malaya siyang magsalita, malaya siyang mag-express, maghahayag. Okay? And if you go back to as far back as the creation of Adam and Eve, sinasabi dyan na you can do whatever you want. You have the freedom to choose to eat this fruit or not. Diba? Hindi niya hinusagahan kaagad na pagka alam ko na kayong dalawa kakainin niyo yan eh. All-knowing na nga yung Diyos nun, pero hindi niya ginawa yan. Sinabi niya, may kalayaan kayo mamili kung anong gusto niyo. Okay? At kung ano ang pipiliin niyo, okay, which is a form of pagpili, ang pagpili ng isa sa dalawang bagay na pagpilian ay an expression of what you want. Okay? An expression of what you will to do. Diba? So, that is freedom of expression. Okay. So, and to some extent, it can also be the freedom to speak. Kasi parang di kung sinasabi mo sa Diyos na bigyan mo ako ng kalayaan, ito pinili ko. I am telling you that this is what I do. Yeah. So even God, the creator of God of the Christians and the Muslims, already had this kind of idea of freedom of the individual mind, freedom of the individual's expression, freedom of the individual speech and thought. Diba? So, andyan na yan siya. Okay, but then later on, the development of governments and yung mga kings, ang ganyan-ganyan, nagkaroon ng importansya na i-control natin itong mga tao na to, and one of the best ways to do that is to control what they know, what they say, how they say it, and what they express. If not say it, they express it in like painting, in songs, in music, and poetry, ganyan-ganyan. Because if you just limit the speech, kakantahin lang nila yan and it's no longer speech. Diba? So, sinali yan dyan as a bigger umbrella yung expression. Kasi marami namang mga expressions na meron namang mga bagay na pwedeng sabihin pero mas maganda kung hindi mo sinasabi, ginagawa mo na lang. And that falls under freedom of expression, like a silent protest na nagrarally dyan, naglalakad sila pero siya sa salita. Diba? Meron silang mga placard but they are not noisy or they don't have sound. And then there was also in the past, siguro modern times na yung mga silent movies. It's silent. There's no speech there, but there's an expression there. Uh, si uh, si sino ba ito? Yung parang si Hitler yung may bigote dito, si whatever his name is. Di ba? Yung parang silent movie na ano na merong bigote dito na parang si Hitler. Uh, Silent yun, walang speech doon. But there's an expression there. Kasi natatawa tayo pag nanood tayo ng mga yun, di ba? Mga TV shows na yun. So, hindi limited. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin. That's it. So, there is no speech there. But there's an expression there. So, in order to defend or protect their rights to do that kind of TV show, they will just refer to the constitutional protection of freedom of expression. Right? So, andyan na yan siya. Andyan na yan siya. Okay, then, pero nakita na as time, as communities, as humans evolve and communities and governments and countries and states develop throughout time in history, nagkaroon ng importansya na i-control ang mga tao. Okay, i-control ang mga tao. And the best way to do that is to control the information that goes to them, that comes out of them, and that flows through the community by exchange of information. Naisipan nilang kontrolin yan. Kasi pagka pinayagan mo lang yan sila na unbridled exchange of information there, ay magre-revolution yan against the king. Pagka hindi ka pinagbawalan mag-usap after like 7 p.m. ng gabi, pinayagan lang yan sila dyan na mag-usap-usap sila, baka mag-plot ng revolusyon doon sa kabilang barangay at girahin na nila suddenly yung kastilyo ng hari. So, di ba, nakikita niyo ang importansya niyan. Okay? But, that goes to show na parang the intervention of certain individuals or establishments or organizations in the freedoms of speech, expression, and the press were not part of the original idea of these three things. The original idea of these three things is that it's all free, whatever, di ba? You can say whatever you want, you can say whenever you want to say it, and to whomever. But again, and then later on, sa modernity, sa ating more modern legal systems, nagkaroon ng deleterious din sa isang society kapag pinayagan natin itong lahat ng tao dito sa ating komunidad na magsalita na lang ng kung ano-ano. Kasi kung nagmumurahan yan sila, mamaya nagsasaksakan na sila, nagsisiraan sila, edi nagkagulo rin ng ating bansa. Wala na ring order itong sinasabi natin. So, naisipan nilang magkaroon ng limitation on speech and expression under the laws of libel and slander and all these things, di ba? And the false publications if it's against the state. So, but yun lang yung tatlo. Yun lang yung tatlo na mga regulation o mga limitation sa freedom of speech, expression, and the press. Wala nang iba. Wala nang iba. So, ang ibig sabihin yan na ang Constitution natin extended these rights to everyone, including the right to the freedom of the press. Eh, bakit kasi press ang tawag dyan? Hindi na lang sinabing the freedom to write or to force your ideas in a written form. Kasi kung press lang naman din kasi, ay yung mga tao lang na may ways of publishing their ideas or opinions, and that's why the press was used. Kasi yung press, okay, noong mga panahon ng mga tao, ay ang lahat ng kanilang ideas, they wrote it down. Sinusulat nila, si Rizal did that, and every other person who ever thought of anything, they wrote it down with their hand. Ngayon, if they wanted to have everyone in the community or in the entire country to read it, It's a really, really big hassle if they had to write down all of those things over and over again just to allow everyone to read it, to see it. So, nung naimbento na yung press, Germany, nagkaroon ngayon ng parang shift, paradigm shift, yung parang nagkaroon siya ng malaking pag-unlad. Bakit? Kasi mas mabilis na ngayon mapalaganap ang isang idea, information, or communication of important things kasi ipiprint yan and isusulat mo na isang beses, they will put it into parang die na ganyan na i-arrange nila yung mga letra and then press it on some kind of paper. And because of that, mass production of this printing allowed more and more people to have access to that information than when it was only written by hand. Di ba? So, ano ibig sabihin yan? Ang ibig sabihin yan is, yung freedom of the press na sinasabi sa Constitution natin ay para yan sa mga tao na gusto mag-express ng sarili nila through writing, okay, through the written word, okay, the printed word, at they have the ability to put it out there in big numbers, like more people can access it. At hindi lahat ng tao kayang gumawa ng ganyan because the press was very expensive. Kasi bakal yan siya. Yung mga letra na ginagamit yan were cast iron or something. Bawat letra, kung ilang letra ang kailanganin mo sa isang page, front page mo lang ng newspaper, hindi lahat ng tao kayang gawin yan. So, ang mga may pera lang, ang negosyo, ang nakakagawa niyan. So, they were called the printing press. Ngayon, kung ikaw ay writer ka or historian ka, mahilig kang magsulat ng mga observations mo, scientist ka, ganyan, and you want many people to read what you are writing, you will go to the printing press and have your stuff printed by them so that it will be reproduced and spread out, di ba? So ngayon, ang sinasabi is, huwag niyo pakialaman yung press. Huwag niyo yan silang pakialaman because everything that passes through there is the product of the exercise of the citizens or people's freedom of expression. And since dumadaan lahat dyan para makalat sa mas maraming tao, extension yan ng individual yung press na yan. And therefore, it evolved into the freedom of the press. Because a press is not a citizen. A press is actually a physical thing that is a machine. Why does a machine have freedom? See, maybe because when the Constitution says freedom of the press, it does not refer to the actual printing press. It refers to the human beings that are involved in the activities of an actual printing press, which is the getting of information from people who want their works to be published, printing these things, and spreading it to the people that who would want to read it. Diba? So, the press is actually an invention of law that is a kind of an extension of an individual because everything that happens in a press would get its contents from the people who exercise their freedoms of expression, speech, and expression, speech, and mind, and thought, and all that. At sinali na rin yung press, kahit hindi tao yung press. Okay? So, that is the evolution of things. Ibig sabihin, kahit may sinabi diyang freedom of the press, hindi ibig sabihin niya na ang mga tao lang na involved sa activities ng press, ng actual printing press, ang pwedeng maging journalist, mag-observe sa society, turn their observations into something that is written, and publish it to a lot of people. Bakit? Because now, in modern times, there is the internet. And all of us now can publish whatever we observe, analyze, and write down. We can spread it to a lot of people. So now suddenly, because of modernity and science and of the internet, we are all journalists. We are all press. We are all now presses. Diba? If you care to do what the printing press and the people who use the printing press to do those things, journalist ka. Press ka rin. Di ba? Press ka na rin. So, hindi pwedeng ipagbawal sa kahit kanino ang paggawa niyan. Kasi freedom of expression, freedom of speech yan. Okay? So, ngayon, um, that is the main argument. Hindi nyo pwedeng angkinin ang trabaho na ginagawa nyo kasi it was never defined by law, because if it is defined by law, it will violate the constitutional provision on freedom of the press, expression, and speech. Okay? So, kaya walang PRC um, body ang mga ang profession ng journalism. It's because to have that kind of regulation by the PRC will violate the constitutional provision. Alright? Naintindihan nyo na parang paikot-ikot na ito siya na pagka nagkaroon ng PRC, mababiolate yung Constitution. Yung Constitution na sinasabi niya dito na may freedom ang lahat ng tao. But we have to safeguard our society and all that stuff. So we have to control this. But the only way to control this is to make a law that would regulate these rights and therefore violate itself, violate the Constitution. So, kaya wala na lang, wag lang pakialaman niya activity na yan. Why? Because it will violate an age-old, even from the time of creation. It already existed, the right to express, the right to think, the right to speak, and the right of, by extension, the press, to spread it to everyone. Okay? So, that's the first argument na mali ng mga taong ayaw, ay nagsasabi na sila lang ang pwedeng maging mamamalita, to be involved in the activity of gathering information and publishing it to a lot of people, kasi there is no such right for them to stop anyone from doing that. Malinaw ba? Malinaw. Yan kasi ang napaka-importante sa pag-intindi ng issue na to ngayon as we go on, di ba? That we understand that there is no limitation whatsoever, there is no regulation whatsoever or prohibition that anyone at all would involve himself or herself in gathering information from using his own senses in the society, gather information there by observing and reducing his ideas, analyzing the information that he got, and reducing it into something that is written or sung or played, and publishing it so that many people will be able to see it, read it, watch it, hear it, and all that stuff, taste it. Okay? So now, because of the internet, suddenly, we are all journalists. We are all press or presses. Diba? Each one now is a press. If a person can publish his thoughts, his ideas, his whatever na ginawa niya to a lot of people, to in other words, a mass audience involved in mass communication, he is already a press. He is already a journalist. Di ba? Yun yung importante maintindihan natin. Because the simple statement of this entire theory is that we are all journalists. And nobody can say that they are journalists because they went to school and studied mass communication, because mass communication does not enjoy the rights of freedom of speech, expression, and the press. It is the people of this country that follow the Constitution who are allowed to do that. Who are allowed to do that, not people who graduated in a certain course. Okay. Now, is it better that everyone is a journalist? To me, it's yes. Now, is it better for actual journalists to make it their life source of livelihood na sila yung mag-gather ng information, make it into news, and publish it? It's probably not, kasi meron na silang kompetensya ngayon. But is there anything that allows them to stop anybody else to do what they're doing? The answer is just a simple no. There is no authority for them to do that. Okay? There is no authority for them to do that. Okay? And we stop there kasi sobrang complicated ito eh. Hindi natin to kakayanin na isang gabi. Hindi ko kakayanin sabihin to sa inyong lahat. And hindi nyo kayang maintindihan to. So, dito pa lang, gugulo na utak natin, but yun lang tandaan nyo. Everyone, right now, everyone who is involved in the expression of something that you found out in your observation of the world, okay, and the processing of that information and sending it out to a lot of people to see it, to perceive it as well, that person is a press, that person is a journalist. Alright? Yan ang importante dyan. Everyone is a journalist if they want to. Now, when we say as a limited application of the term journalist to those people who have it their livelihood to be involved in that activity and get money out of it, that is not justified in the Constitution and in the development of these ideas of freedoms. So, hindi nila pwedeng i-impose sa atin yan. So that nobody, no actual journalist can actually come here and tell me, stop what you're doing because that is the activities exclusive only to journalists who studied mass comm, studied journalism or whatever. Wala silang karapatang gawin yan. Okay? Because our right to speak, to write, publish everything that we speak, we think, and produce is part of those freedoms that we have in the Constitution. Alright, and even then, kahit sila, they know na hindi naman silang lahat nag-aral ng journalism. Hindi naman yan silang lahat nag-aral ng mass comm. Okay? In fact, yung mga mass comm, nag-aaral din sila ng broadcasting, ng press, ng paano mag-operate ng press company, okay, and how to do it, and how, the techniques, but not how to gather information, how to think about this information, and how to write their opinions or speak their opinions, because it is really up to the individual how he does that. There is no school for that. Because if there were a school for that, that is a form of limitation and now therefore violate the constitutional provision. Naintindihan niyo to? It's circular, pero ang ganda. It's just really foolproof that nobody can mess, nobody can touch your right to express, to speak, and to publish whatever you have. There is no such authority to stop you from doing that. Nothing. The only limitations, okay, are libel, slander, and false publications. But kung iisipin mo, hindi naman ito nagbabawal na ang mga tao ay mag-isip at magsulat at mag-publish. Ang pinagbabawal dito ay pagkatapos mo i-publish yan at nakita namin na naninira ka ng kapwa mo, you are going to jail for that. So, hindi ka pinagbawalan na gawin ng isang bagay. Pinabayaan ka, sige gawin mo. Pero pagka meron kang malis dyan sa paggawa mo nito, makukulong ka. That's not a limitation of the freedom of the press, expression, or speech. Kasi inalaw ka eh. Diba? You are allowed to speak whatever you want. But if the thing that you talk about, you say, and publish, okay, is slanderous or libelous or whatever, you're going to jail for that. You are punished for your intention to harm another person by using your freedom of speech. So you are not stopped from exercising freedom of speech or press or expression, but you'll be punished for using that right to the detriment of another person. So it is not really strictly a regulation of that freedom. Diba? Okay. Slander means an utterance. So, sinabi. Okay? And sinabi sa two or more people. So, that's the publication part of it. You publish your opinions to two or more people. Sa press naman, printing it and publishing it to many people by means of a printed thing. Written thing. Diba? An expression is art, like painting, sibit kayo doon, that's publication. Okay? So, these things are everyone's rights. Every single one of us have these things as rights, as our personal freedoms. Ay, may bisita tayo. Naka-pajama. Anong ginagawa mo dito? Oh, there is that monster. No, halika dito. Ipakita natin dito sa... Pumunta ka dito.
No, he wants to sit down. Ayan na. Ito na siya.
Alright. Magugulo kayo dito, mabuti na lang, patapos na kami. Well, anyway, That is the extent of our discussion tonight. But this will continue. This is necessary for us to go on with this kind of discussion. But do not forget what we learned tonight, because it's very important. It is very important that we know these things. Okay? And nobody has said this before in a way that would tell you na hindi pwedeng pagbawalan ka ng isang kunyari journalist, totoong journalist, whatever that means, na maging journalist din. Okay? Walang pwedeng gumawa sa'yo yan. Pero walang nagsasabi niyan before now. Tayo yata ang una, but siguro hindi naman tayo ang una nakaisip, but tayo ang una nagsasabi nito dito sa ating bansa. Hindi ako ang unang nagsasabi nito sa inyo, kasi sinabihan lang din ako nito ng aking mga professor, not in this manner na pang spoon-fed to you. Sila noon, they just taught us these freedoms, these principles, and then we deduced everything to this meaning that we are saying to you now. Kaya hindi sinabi sa akin ng professor ko na, Ahmed, walang pwede magbawal sa'yo na maging journalist. Ako lang ang nag-synthesize niyan using the knowledge that they gave me to this kind of statement. But insofar as we are concerned, this statement, which is made by me and Trixie and a lot of our friends, have already been here ever since the adoption of the customary principles of the freedoms of speech, of thought, of expression, and of now writing press publication of something that is written. So, nandito na yan noon pa. Ngayon lang natin ito sinasabi in this way because of the new development of the internet. The internet now brings in a dark horse in the entire equation. It brings in a black hole in this kind of situation na okay na sana yung sitwasyon natin, but suddenly nangyari itong internet. Now everybody can express their opinions and publish it to a lot of people, which was only been done before the internet by those who actually are involved in mass media and press. So dahil sa internet, tayo ng lahat ang gumagawa niyan. Okay? Does that mean na sila lang yung may karapatan dyan? Under the question, no. No. Tayong lahat na yan. But that also means that tayong lahat ay subject to the limitations of the laws on libel, on slander, on malicious, diba? On malicious publications, which is with false publications. All of us will now be and should be aware of these limits so that we don't go to jail. Kasi sila, alam nila yan. Alam nila how to go about that kasi matagal na nilang ginagawa yan. But lawyers also knew that. Many lawyers also write for newspapers. Many lawyers are broadcasters. See, so they do not have a monopoly of this thing. Everyone can do this. Diba? And that is one thing that you should remember, you should understand, remember, and be able to say to other people when they try to tell you otherwise. Alright? Yan lang yung message ko sa inyo ngayong gabi. But that is a very potent message. That is a revolutionary message. Whatever. Alright? So, okay. Matatapusin na natin to para kapagpahinga na tayo. Tandaan nyo yung sinabi ko. Tandaan nyo yun kasi importante yun. Pwede niyong sabihin niyan kay Karen Davila and whoever na magmayabang na hindi kayo, bobo kayo, cheap kayo dahil hindi kayo journalist. Sagutin niyo ng ganyan. Kasi ang talino at ang galing sa paggawa ng mga activities has nothing to do with what you have as rights or freedoms. It's just because hindi ka lang gumagawa niyan and you chose to be a lawyer or you chose to be a professional businessman or whatever. And sila, they chose to do that. But doesn't mean na sila lang may karapatan. Tayong lahat meron karapatan na gumawa niyan. At kung pinayagan nila tayo and they just leave us alone and do this thing, we might actually be as good as they are or even better. And even better. Doon ngayon ang takot. May threat. Dahil baka mawalan sila ng negosyo. But that is my problem. That's not my problem. My problem is how to make you understand that our fundamental rights found in the Constitution has given the same rights to these journalists as well as us. Alright? Yan lang yan. awesome ngayong lahat dahil nanood kayo and you stayed. Pero mas awesome yung nag-share, yung mag-share pa lang para kumalat itong idea natin na to. Right? Okay. Babayabayin na. Tama na. Kasi pagod na rin ako. Goodbye and I'll see you tomorrow. Sa ngalan ng Luminous, and Trixie on leave from Luminous, and AGP, the awesome AG, awesome, guapo, and pogi guy of Luminous, whatever the hell that means. Service nandito rin. And si JP nandyan. JP kasi sumipot ka dito. Ay, wag ka. Mag-zoom na lang tayo dahil may COVID kami dito. Baka mahawa ka. Alright? At salamat sa pagpunta niyo dito at pakikinig. At sana ikalat niyo ito para lahat tayo ay maging educated. At hindi lang yung mga pigs. And we can also educate them if you want. Alright? Paalam-paalam. I will start this thing to happen. Hold on. As we go away, let's know this thing.